just there we go. Patrick, Joe Patrick, lift your head up real quick. Can you scoot over just that way a little bit? Just the way you're.
So the bar is right in front of my face.
No, so you're in between the bar and I guess.
Right there.
Where's this microphone? Here we go. Yeah, try to get.
How can you hear us?
I'm very nicely framed right there.
I don't know.
What's up, Elliot? How can you hear us?
How do we sound? Because we're having a. Well,
Eric forgot to bring in the.
Yeah, I'll just say it. I forgot to bring my stuff, so we're not using the microphone. We're not using the webcam we have, so we're just kind of going with what we got.
We're using my
Sounds
laptop.
good.
Sound
Okay,
is good.
cool.
All right, cool. We're gonna start.
I'm looking right into my laptop. Hey, hold on.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
They gotta see my beautiful face.
Yeah, my bad. All right.
There it is.
What's up, Atlanta? This is the Mouths of South podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer in the palatial 680 The Fan Studios. I am Eric Quintana, Josh Bagriansky in front of me, and to my left, the great Joe Patrick, managing editor of Dirty South Soccer, your SB Nation station for all things Atlanta United. Make sure you're following them at Dirty South Soccer on Twitter. Join them on Facebook. And if you're not visiting the site daily, then you're not living.
What are you doing?
The Atlanta United way. Let's just put it that way, because Dirty South Soccer coming out with all the news and notes, all the news, all the Atlanta United related gossip, interviews, tweets,
Especially the gossip.
especially the gossip.
Romantic overtures.
Romantic
lest we
overtures.
forget the biggest gossip of the season.
Did you see the T-shirt that somebody made of Romantic Overtures that had
What?
it was a smile with braces, except the brace part was like letters and it said romantic on the top and overtures on the bottom.
That's brilliant.
It really is.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Atlanta United going to the Eastern Conference Finals, first leg, and that's kind of tricked me up a little bit because I kind of was under the assumption that this game was like against NYCFC, that we were the higher seed. Totally forgot that we did not win Supporter Shield.
Yeah,
and we're going up against NYC.
You mean the next round against
team.
Red Bulls? Yeah.
Right. I just assumed that we'd be the second leg because I just assumed toward the end of the season we were just going to dominate and finish as the top seed. We did not. So we are actually going to be going. No, we're hosting the first leg and then going to Red Bull Arena in the second leg.
I mean, it's it's understandable that you would think that didn't we still, like, other than Red Bulls this year, we beat Toronto's point. No, we didn't. We tied the point
Toronto's
record.
Tie the point record.
But you would still think that would be enough to be the top seed.
You'd think.
Nope.
The best season in MLS history was topped by the best season in MLS history.
Yeah.
Which sucks. But
That's
It's
okay.
a break.
The worst things could happen. I'm really interested. I mean, the whole having the second leg thing at home is nice. I don't think it's not home field advantage in the sense of best of 5. You get 3 games at home. It's not home field advantage like you would see in a best of 7 or best of 5 series. It's nice to have the second match at home, but it's not a big difference.
Yeah, in terms of the playoffs, basically all I wanted was to not play to get the top 2 seed, to not have to play the midweek game after finishing the regular season, and then to basically have the final if you make it there at home, which we got all of those things.
Right.
So yeah, we're in control of our own destiny.
And we are going to get into those of you season ticket holders. I know there's a bit to do about MLS Cup final tickets. We're going to get into that a little bit later.
Hold the questions on the YouTube. Hold the questions on the season ticket holder thing because that's coming. I promise. Just stay put. But let's talk about the game itself. First of all, heading into Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you were in the stands. You were in the press box.
Mm-hmm.
How were the nerves? Because I wasn't there. I was feeling the nerves. But again, I wasn't there in the midst of everyone else feeling the same old Atlanta sports nerves going into any kind of massive match or game for any Atlanta sports team.
I was legit nervous because this was the first time I'd been in the building when last year, okay, I take that back. I guess the first time this season where there's actually been something tangible on the line. Like, it's do or die, essentially. To borrow a phrase, I guess, we felt that last year in Columbus, and that was pretty nerve-wracking as well. But I think that, when we were sitting eating from the beautiful buffet there at
6 cheese mac and cheese. Do they have a 6 cheese?
Yeah, okay. Maybe like 16 mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is unbelievable amounts of cheeses on the mac and cheese. But yeah, we were sitting there eating, and we were watching Real Salt Lake versus Sporting Kansas City. And that kind of like watching like the
intensity
of that game, and kind of the drama that was unfolding there, that kind of built up the nerves, I guess.
Yeah.
It kind of made you realize the reality of the situation, that this could be the last time you see Atlanta United play this season. This could be the last time you see Tata Martino coaching this team. This could be the last time you see Miguel Almiron. And that makes you nervous just thinking about those things. So that's what I was thinking about kind of heading in.
And I think, I was a little nervous too. Again, I did a good job of calming my nerves via excess alcohol consumption before the match. So I was pretty relaxed. But one thing I noticed, the team didn't have nerves.
No, not at all.
The team came out and they were similar to the setup in New York, but they were a little bit more aggressive, particularly through the middle, first 15, 20 minutes, trying to push forward a little bit. And they kind of calmed me down. I thought they calmed the crowd down a little bit too, because you could see right away that they knew exactly what they had to do. And in the end, you're in control of the tie. I mean, you're coming home with the lead. And they played like a team that was under control, knew what they had to do, knew that they were the team that it was in our hands, whether we were going to go through or not. And
they control their own destiny.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up, because that was one thing I was worried about, was how this team was going to come out. Last time we saw them play in a game that had real ramifications was the Supporters Shield.
Yeah.
And they came out looking nervous and unsure of themselves, and
really
not the same Atlanta not the same Atlanta United team that we had grown so accustomed to seeing. So I was worried that, in the first leg, that's a little different, because you know that you're playing the first half of the game, essentially. Like you know there's going to be another game after that. So I was kind of worried about how this team was going to look coming out of the gate. But then you're totally right. They came out looking aggressive. I mean, I think Miguel Almiron forced a corner like in the first 10, 15 seconds of the game.
Yeah.
And that kind of set the tone, I thought, for how the rest of it was going to unfold.
I think that was really the story of these two legs, was Atlanta United just handled every situation better. And I think that's really going through in a two-leg tie is not always about who plays the better style, or it's usually about who reacts best to the different situations. Because if you play a bad 25 minutes, that could ruin the whole 180 minutes between the two legs. So I thought Atlanta United, from the moment they went to New York to the time that the final whistle ended at Mercedes-Benz over the weekend, they looked like they understood, recognized, and executed the way they needed to based on each and every situation within the match. And I think you started to see that as both matches rolled on in New York and in Atlanta. The second half, you saw New York get increasingly frustrated. Atlanta United looked more and more composed. And to me, that was the story, aside from the fact that I think you outplayed them and all that, but really outmanaged, better mentality. Atlanta United beat NYCFC, I think, in terms of situational discipline, and that's a big, big reason that they're going through, especially in such an easy kind of routine manner.
Yeah, I noticed one of the tweets you sent out on Friday. Michael Parkhurst reminded us this morning that most of the team isn't originally from Atlanta, so dark thoughts won't be swirling around their heads as they're playing the ball out of the back, which I thought was hilarious. And it was even more true when you got a guy like Tata Martino who's starting Miles Robinson in the back.
Mm-hmm.
That lets you know he's got every bit of confidence in Miles Robinson, in a back five, whatever you want to call it, back three without Lorenowitz. Playing a guy like Miles Robinson shows you have confidence not only in your young players but in your team, and being able to adapt to what Miles Robinson gives you defensively. And I thought that was, look, when I first saw that, and I unfortunately couldn't actually see the game live like you guys could. I had to. Yeah. I mean, I saw the game live, but I had to kind of like.
You're in and out, and I had to hide it because I'm in the middle of a wedding reception, and you don't have audio.
Right, I don't have audio. I don't know. There was a couple moments where I was like, "What the hell happened?" I had to go to Twitter real quick. I think I saw the Martinez goal, the last one, the second one, the third goal, the third Atlanta United goal live. That was the only one I saw live. Otherwise, I had to either get an update from my brother or whatever. But I went into that with that same kind of nervousness, not only because I've been in Atlanta for the last 29 years, so I know exactly how Atlanta sports kind of works. But also when I saw the lineup and I saw Miles Robinson starting, I was I guess not shocked, but just a little. It didn't calm my nerves at all.
Well,
because you're looking at it starting a young kid like that in a big moment like this.
Yeah, I mean, so you've been in the press box. Everybody's kind of an hour before the game. lineup comes out, and usually there's a bunch of murmuring,
Just a bunch of conversation.
Yeah. Immediately, it's like a tinderbox that starts off, and then just everybody's talking about it. And when this one came out, everyone was just like, it was true shock about what has happened. And maybe it seemed even worse because all of us like journalists were having kind of a very similar reaction, and it just kind of built on each other. But the more I thought about it, I actually thought it actually was an insertion of a player that made sense, because Tata Martino's talked about how he's not a manager who likes to chop and change his lineups. He likes to keep it as consistent as he possibly can from week to week. And if you don't have Jeff Larentowicz, this was the easiest like-for-like choice you could make in terms of...
Let's preface it with Larentowicz or McCann.
Yes.
I think McCann would have probably been the first choice had he been available. I would assume...
I don't think so. I'm
50-50 on that.
So
I would hope not, but I think based off the seniority, I guess.
He does seem to favor
probably.
McCann. But regardless, I think it actually made sense after I thought about it, and after I saw Miles Robinson put in a great performance. That always makes me think, oh yeah, that was the right call.
And he's someone we didn't get a chance to cover on the radio show 7 to 8 p.m. Atlanta Sports X every Wednesday.
Around the world,
followed by the podcast. He's someone he's credited with assists for the second Martinez goal. He had a great defensive showing. He allowed both, and I think you brought it up on the radio show, he allowed both Garza and Escobar the freedom to roll up the wings as much as they wanted. And that in itself, them being able to kind of provide help with the attack, it wasn't that they needed to be committed to the attack, but they were viable options if they happen to be there at the time. It's like, sure, join the attack when it's available, but you don't need to because we have all these other weapons around here. Mm-hmm. And we've got NYCFC and a ton of more open space.
And I think what really benefited Miles Robinson in this game was just the fact that he wasn't really tasked with doing anything spectacular. It's not like he had an incredibly tough job to do. He just had to do a simple job well, and he did. He did it very well. Tata Martinez said he was one of the 3 best players on the pitch for Atlanta, which, maybe he's trying to give him a little bit, boost his confidence a little bit. I don't know if I would go that far personally, but he didn't put a foot wrong. Like he did play great. So, all good for Miles.
It was almost like, you didn't notice him a ton,
right?
And
which is a good.
That's
thing.
exactly what you want. Eric, you said you weren't shocked. You said you were, Joe. I was totally shocked.
I was shocked. What did I say? I wasn't shocked.
Yeah, you said you weren't totally. you said you weren't shocked.
It
was a bit of a surprise.
I wasn't. Look, I was surprised at the. I guess I saw his name and I was surprised that I was seeing his name. But when you sat back and think about who, I know it doesn't make sense. But when you sit down, you
can explain the move. You can rationalize it.
Yeah, once you sit down and think about, okay, well, the Reynolds is probably either hurt or tired or whatever. And then you've got McCann who's not available. Then who's the next logical choice? And you're like, all right, well, I guess it would be Miles. How did I not think it?
But the thing is, you could, and what we speculated, because we talked about this, what do you do without Jeff? And we were saying, simple, 3-5-2, Escobar comes back to right center back. Mm-hmm. Gressel plays a right wing back. Garza at left wing back. You play 3-5-2.
Yeah, you bring in Kratz, if you want to be more solid.
Yeah, and once again, we saw Tata treating these 2 matches differently, differently tactically than he treated any of them in the regular season, and that he wanted to stay in that kind of back 5. As we talked about, the first leg of the series was a back 5 that turned into a back 3, and not the other way around, which is what was employed the entire regular season. And the reason that I think Tata selects Robinson is so you can play Escobar on the right side instead of Julian Gressel, which keeps it as a traditional kind of 5 at the back with traditional fullbacks in Garza and Escobar. So I think that's why how you explained Miles Robinson starting is Tata Martino's insistence on remaining, although it's a little more aggressive than the first leg, but Tata Martino's insistence on remaining with kind of 5 out-and-out defenders at the back to kind of put out any fires and defend that lead in the tie.
Yeah, for the most part, I thought NYCFC was controlled pretty much the entire match. They didn't do anything that was particularly dangerous. They had the one set piece that turned into a goal, more of a lucky bounce that went their way. But outside of that, everything, and I mentioned this on the radio show, but everything that I thought that they were able to manage was more based off of chaos than anything else.
If you go through the 2 matches, I think the biggest chance for New York is probably the Matarrita chance in the first 10 minutes of that first match at Yankee Stadium, which kind of came from a scramble from a free kick. But after that, I mean, this is what you mentioned earlier on the radio, Eric, seemed like New York was the only way they were able to create was come from kind of lumped in, desperate crosses. They created a bit on set pieces, but run of play was virtually nothing over 180 minutes.
The one moment I think of is, and I forget who it was on the left side, that just without any aim, just powers across through into the box. I mean, not even a cross. It's like a line drive type of hit on the ball that finds David Villa. This is where he turns around and just kind of tries to sneak one past Guzan. Guzan had a fantastic game, who I think hasn't been mentioned much just on social media and whatnot. But those are the moments that I thought NYCFC had, and that was it. I mean, I think Atlanta United, for being in that high pressure of a situation against a team that not necessarily they've struggled with in the past, but has given them a good shot. It has given them their best shot. Did a fantastic job of really closing out this second leg.
What I really like to see in this series against NYCFC from Tata Martino is that he didn't let it become a – can I say dick? He didn't let it become a dick measuring contest, between him and Dominic Torrent.
You had to pause and make sure you could say it right.
It wasn't like we need to go out and outplay them. We need to go out and dominate these games and play them off the pitch and play our philosophy. He was much more pragmatic, which I was happy to see. It's something I would have liked to see a little bit more of toward the end of the regular season, especially in the New York Red Bulls game. Even though I've kind of been one of the people who's been more along the lines of, don't worry if we drop results here and there, it's important to maintain a playing style and a philosophy and that kind of a thing. But I do think in certain situations, like when you play Red Bulls towards the end of the season, maybe you should adapt a little bit and be a little more pragmatic. But I think that we finally saw that in this series against NYCFC, and that was heartening for me. Tata Martino has been talking about it to the press for the last couple of weeks now, saying that the playoffs are a different beast, and the way you win in these competitions, these types of competitions, and it's not just MLS, it's Copa Libertadores and other types of knockout tournaments he's played in or managed in throughout his career, is that the teams that win are the teams that just don't make the mistakes that lead to goals. Even if you're not as talented of a team, if you don't make egregious errors, you're not going to give away clear chances. And if you don't give away clear chances, you're going to give yourself a shot. You're going to give you could if you're not the more talented team. I'm specifically thinking of the job he did with Paraguay in the World Cup. That team was physical and not as technically talented as a lot of the teams they played against, but they just didn't make mistakes in that tournament. And it allowed them to progress on and almost beat Spain, who ended up winning that World Cup. So I just thought that it was nice to see that mentality from Tata Martino, having instilled that in the team and kind of using that as the foundation to build on and kind of thinking of the attack as a little bit more secondary and just staying solid at the back.
I think one of the biggest kind of off-putting takes that I've heard throughout this season about Tata Martino is that he doesn't really have a plan B. He doesn't have something he reverts to when things aren't going well, that he insists kind of on one style of play.
I've been one to say exactly that.
I can see from what you're saying, Joe, we haven't seen this yet. We haven't seen, defense first, we'll feel the match out, but we have seen the 3 at the back, 4 at the back, playing on the counter, playing with 55, 60% possession. And we saw almost a plan C in this scenario. And I think, like you said, Joe, I mean, it's very encouraging that you know that you have a team that can play this way. I don't know this is necessarily the way you play against New York Red Bulls because you have the first leg at home. You're probably going to want to go after the game over the first 90 minutes. But, again, we saw a different type of system that it was only slightly different from what we've seen at 3 at the back, but we saw a more
shift in mentality,
composed, compact, shift in mentality. And that's something you and me, Eric, talked about a lot heading into the playoffs. And something we were really worried about was not does Tata Martino know how to play a back five, but can these players make that mental adjustment to, I don't need to bomb forward and press down the wings at all time in the case of a Franco Escobar or Greg Garza. In the case of a center midfielder not pressing too far up the pitch, Miguel Almiron and Joseph Martinez understanding they need to play a little more direct because you're going to be playing on the counter. So everyone had to kind of change their mentality a little bit, and that was something we didn't know that this team could do. And certainly based on what happened in Toronto, there was some worry that it wouldn't happen. But, I mean, over these 180 minutes, no question.
I do think we saw a little bit of a tactical shift in this series, though, in this formation, this 3 or 5 at the back, because it's the first time Tata has actually gone with Miguel Almiron as basically a striker, playing as a shadow striker without Tito Villalba. Before, we'd always seen either Tito playing as like alongside Joseph with Miguel underneath, or Barco up there with Miguel underneath. But we'd never seen Miguel and Joseph basically playing together up top with a solid 3 central midfielders in behind. But I think it works. I thought it worked out very well.
And those are the 2 guys that allow you to remain dangerous going forward, allow you to remain positive the way Tata Martino wants, while still really prioritizing your defensive responsibilities. Because, and we saw this time and time again in this match, Miguel Almiron gets the ball anywhere in the middle third of the pitch, gets a full head of steam running forward, you're out and gone on the counter, and you're dangerous. And the way New York City was having to throw bodies increasingly further forward, he was starting to find those pockets of space in the middle of the field more frequently. And so it became where Atlanta United had 30% possession in this match, basically played 5 at the back, and had a more defensive mentality, like you guys said, and we're still the more dangerous attacking team. And so much of it is down to the just individual quality of those 2 guys, where they can go 2v4, 2v3 against the New York back line and still get in behind and create opportunities.
3 goals. They could have had more.
Absolutely.
Almiron had a clear-cut chance.
Which was played in by Joseph. I mean, those 2, you just can't say enough about it, because it allowed Atlanta United to have that mentality switch that we're talking about while still being really, really dangerous going forward.
What's a shame, what you're exactly talking about, those are the big misses for Atlanta United. Is when Almiron and Martinez are both kind of in unison going forward together, trying to find each other. And it's in those moments where it just doesn't come off. You don't get the end product in the goal that you're looking for. But you did see that, and that was amazingly dangerous for Atlanta United. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, at least before we moved any further, Nagbe hasn't been talked about much, and neither has Escobar. Escobar more so than Nagbe, but I think Nagbe, and there's a couple of things with this first goal that I want to talk about that were a product of how the goal kind of came to be. So first of all, playing on a wider pitch, obviously that was going to be a big deal for NYCFC. On this first goal, you got Nagbe basically in the middle of the field with a ton of open space, which he would not have had in New York. He's got Escobar on the right side stretching out this back line, which makes a perfect hole for Nagbe to pass the ball through. I have no idea what NYC is thinking here, but they've got 5 guys in the back line, and for whatever reason, they all think that Escobar is going to cross with no one in the box.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
You watch Escobar make a run on this ball and literally pulls it back. You look at all 4 or 5 NYCFC defenders in the box with no Atlanta United players around. Why Trouty is going to ground there, I have no idea.
Well, once again, it's NYCFC not recognizing a situation and reacting to it properly. And in this case, it's number 1, not realizing that there's nobody in the box. Joseph Martinez had gone down earlier on that play from a 50-50 challenge. And then also not recognizing that it's Franco Escobar in the box, not Miguel Almiron. So there's no reason to go to ground and be as aggressive as Tajuri Shradi was, regardless of whether there's anybody waiting to get on the end of the cross or not. This is somebody who's not the best attacking player. So for Tajuri to allow that ball in that situation, I think was a problem.
He's actually moving up towards creeping up towards Nagbe at that point, which again, when you've got Escobar right behind you, I'm not sure why you're paying attention to Nagbe when you got 3 other guys.
Absolutely, and he was afforded. I mean, you kind of watch that play, and the New York back line kind of get caught all ball watching Nagbe, which is what allows the run to come in behind in the first place. But then again, what I thought was the most befuddling to me was not just that you foul in the box with no options, but that you are that aggressive with Franco Escobar. You have to realize it's Tajuri Shradi, who was not the left back on that side, and so. He's not an out-and-out defensive player, but you still have to recognize this is not an incredibly dangerous attacking player that's going to beat you 1v1. So there's no reason to be that aggressive and go to ground there. And it was just another example of NYCFC not thinking quick enough on their feet, not recognizing the situation, Atlanta making them pay.
That said, I think we should give Tata some credit, and we talked about this on the radio show, but for that little wrinkle of playing Escobar as the right wing back and moving Gressel centrally, I think it gave the team a different dynamic with having Franco's speed out there on the flank, really allowing him to bomb forward because it's something that he likes to do. I know when he's played right back, we've often complained about him basically neglecting his defensive responsibilities too much. But in this formation, when you have a guy like Miles Robinson behind you, you have more license to go forward and make those runs that, as Michael Parker said, he had no business making to get to that ball that led to the penalty.
That's great. He said that post.
Yeah. So and Gressel can do a good enough job in central midfield to make up for that.
I'm glad that he can't say that because it means that they have a good enough relationship where they can make fun of each other.
They do seem to. There does seem to be a clear sense that Escobar is like the wild man.
He's the wild card.
But I would say, you're right. He shouldn't have been in that place in the first place. But you mentioned a couple of tactical wrinkles from Tata Martino. I don't think that's a run he makes in leg one. I think Garza and Escobar had a little bit more freedom to go forward, and obviously. The fact that it is a Garza and Escobar who are more traditional defenders than, say, a Julian Gressel allows them to have that mentality change of thinking defense first. But they were still had more freedom to make runs up the pitch and press. We saw Garza with a chance in the first half that he just pulled wide. And that was another example of one of the fullbacks being a little bit more aggressive and maybe surprising NYCFC a little bit. So, again, we see Tata Martino striking a perfect balance between being aggressive but also being aware of what's behind you and being solid defensively. And it really showed with Escobar just being in that spot in the first place.
And you kind of started this conversation with talking about Darlington Nagbe. And I thought it was interesting reading one of Felipe Cardenas's pieces this week. It was an interview with Leandro Gonzalez Perez. And one of the questions he asked him was, who are two players you would recommend to River? Players that hadn't played in South America. And he said, Greg Garza and Darlington Nagbe. Just very technical players. But I think it really. I know this is what they say about Darlington Nagbe all the time. Say you don't notice him or he doesn't produce
that first goal is what he does.
Yeah, exactly.
That PK that Escobar earns, that is Nagbe, and that is a perfect summarization. Summarization of what Nagbe is as a player and what he contributes to the team.
But it's just funny because nobody's talking about Nagbe having to do anything with that play. Really, it's been mostly about either Franco or the Joseph Hop.
Yeah, you're totally right. Because granted, like I said, I had drank a bunch of Jameson, but I didn't remember. I didn't remember that ball when I was like, that is a great ball. That's a ball we see from an Almiron. It was perfectly weighted. And again, Tajuri Shradi is so nervous because the weight of that ball, he realizes right away that he's not going to get Escobar's going to get there first. So really fantastic. And Nagbe was really great.
Good on Escobar to actually draw the dot because I think that
it was
sure. Shoddy actually goes down and begins the slide, but I don't think that's anywhere near Escobar. And it's not until Escobar basically tries to turn back, it realizes he can get his foot caught underneath Shoddy's shoe.
It's a mistimed challenge,
and that's it. That's all you need.
It's a million times, but once again, it's an Atlanta United player reacting quicker, smarter to the situation, and an NYCFC player coming in kind of desperate and not realizing the scenario they're in.
B. Ellis in the chat says Nagbe versus Barco is really a no-brainer for me. Here's the thing, though. Nagbe and Barco are
they're not
completely different.
I think it's
completely different players, and they're going to be asked to do completely different things.
Yeah.
You're not. Nagbe is never going to go forward like Barco. We want Barco to, and Nagbe is going to find the passing lanes that Barco can't.
How does Barco sneak his way into every single line?
He's a $15 million man.
Yeah, but just to go back to Nagbe, I think to have a player like that pulling the strings, and just the fact that we talked a lot about this going into the series, how NYCFC has kind of a delayed press where they allow the defender some time on the ball, but then the second they distribute into the center of midfield, they're on. And, Herrera, Ring, they collapse immediately and try to win the ball back and go forward in the midfield. And so obviously that put a player like Darlington Nagbe under a lot of pressure. And we hardly saw him give the ball away. We saw him win a bunch of fouls, and then we saw him get forward and create that goal or create the penalty kick. So I think in a lot of ways, the way NYCFC play, we're going to make this a big test for Darlington Nagbe, and he was fantastic. He could have made a lot of errors because he was under a lot of pressure, and it didn't happen. He was able to complete passes. He was able to dribble it into space, start the counter. I thought he was good positionally, defensively when he needed to be, and one of many players on Atlanta United who really passed the test the NYCFC asked of them.
And I think he's going to be, without a doubt, the fulcrum, the key player in this next series against New York Red Bull, because New York Red Bulls, when Atlanta United went to Red Bull Arena when they went up there at the end of the season, they shut Nagby down. And
he wasn't even on the ball.
Yeah. He couldn't find the ball, and it's because you have guys like Tyler Adams and Sean Davis, who are two of the best kind of central midfielders in the league at pressing and denying those kinds of players like Nagby time and space on the ball. It's going to be a huge challenge, and I'm interested to see how the team deals with that. If they've learned anything tactically, a way that maybe they could free him up, or if maybe they use him as a decoy. And try to go bypass him and go with somebody else to be the playmaker.
It's a good point, Joe, because the center midfielders against a press, being solid on the ball, is going to be what allows Miguel Almiron to play higher up the pitch and be that dangerous outlet that we saw against NYCFC. So if you see Nagby, Remedi, Laurentowicz, whoever is playing that center midfield position against that press of Red Bull struggle, you're going to see Almiron, as we saw at Red Bull Arena earlier in the season, have to come deep, win the ball, and then he's not as effective that way.
It doesn't. I think one of them, Nagby or Remedi against Red Bulls, has to have a good two legs. You can take away one. If you take away both of them, you've won the game, in my opinion. The one thing I did want to mention about this first goal, is that Almiron and Martinez are nowhere in sight. They have other than the fact that Joseph scores the PK in the buildup, they have nothing to do with the buildup at all. And I think that's fantastic.
Joseph wins a 50-50. That's it.
Yeah. I love it. He got clattered, and he was, just laying like a dead corpse on the ground during the play. And then, like as soon as Geiger points to the spot, he's up. He's up. Yeah, he's up as ready to take the ball. Ready to take the penalty. Yeah.
What do we think about the hop? Because I think for whatever reason, this was a lot of national media's first time watching Joseph Martinez take this hop during his PK run, and we've been watching him do it since the first couple of times that the Atlanta United faced Philadelphia. Are we going with the name for it?
La Pausa.
La Pausa.
That's what we're calling it. That we're starting that right here, right now.
If you hear anywhere
else
else
watching, tell all your friends and family, just start calling it that. And when they ask you, where'd you hear that? Just be like, oh, you haven't heard? That's what they've always called it.
So now next week you're just gonna, or whatever, when Atlanta United plays Red Bulls, you're just gonna ask them, so have you heard that they're calling your thing La Pausa?
Yep, we're gonna do that. We'll write it in all the articles.
So it is written.
La Pausa works. I mean, people. It's funny to see people going through kind of the same thought process that we were going through months ago when we first saw this, where it was like, all right, you can't do that, man. You can't do that every time.
Yeah.
But it's gone. I mean, the one penalty Joseph Martinez has missed this year went off the post.
Which game was it? I'm not even remembering which
LA,
one.
I think it was Galaxy. LA Galaxy in LA.
Which we won anyway, right?
Yeah, 1-2-0. I'm relatively certain it was that match. And, I mean, who cares if you hop if it goes in? And not only that, the keepers aren't getting anywhere close to it, so it's working as well.
I don't know how you can criticize something that's that unbelievably effective. That's 90% success rate.
I think it's just unorthodox, and some of these more national media members haven't seen it a lot of times like we have.
What's fascinating about it to me, and what really shows what kind of a technique it is that he is always it always seems like he's able to go to the other side of the way the keeper's diving. Like he's never kicking it to the same side the keeper's going to. Which, I mean, of course, that's kind of the point of it, right? Is to try to wait as long as you can and read the keeper for as long as you can before you decide which way to kick. But to me, when he kicks it, it's like he kicks it with so little force. It seems like if the keeper
he gets
go, if he didn't go, the keeper could just read it and dive and react in time to be able to get to it. But I don't know, maybe not. It's certainly working. Like,
I've seen the keeper guess right a few times, and just one thing he's really good at is it's always low.
Yeah,
he always hits it at so even if the keeper guesses right, he's got it. If it's well placed, he's got to get down real quick.
Yeah.
Well, Taylor Twelman on the broadcast was mentioning how I forget what his verbiage actually was, but basically that he didn't like it or made him nervous or something like that.
Yeah, it makes you nervous
because he commits to one side from the get-go. First of all, it's not like you're running up and still deciding which way you're going to kick it. You pretty much already know. On top of that, I think that it works so well for Martinez that up until the moment he is kicking it, I think for him he is still deciding which way he's going to go. He is waiting for the goalkeeper to react. Nothing else. He's just freezing the goalkeeper for a second.
Yeah,
and that's enough for him to get the ball past you.
I mean, Atlanta United posted a picture of him kind of like at mid-strike today of the penalty, and he's not looking at the ball. He's looking at the keeper. So I don't know if he's ever looking at the ball when he's – I mean, obviously he looks at it at some point, but I think he's reading the keeper the entire way. And I was looking back at that replay in slow motion, and I was wondering if he can gauge where the keeper is going to go kind of based on the way that their legs are tilted. Like if he knows –
See, that's what I'm thinking. He's just waiting for that one movement one way or the other.
We'll have an article on it on Dirty South Soccer. We have our resident goalkeeper, Scott Zueno. He's the goalkeeper at Oglethorpe University. It's Oglethorpe, right?
Yeah.
He's going to write a piece for us about Joseph from his perspective as a keeper. I'm really looking forward to reading it. It's going to be good insight from him.
There's nothing illegal about what he's doing.
No.
Bill Ellis saying that national press thinks it's a balk. But as long as he's moving forward.
If they call it a balk, I mean, it shows you about how much they understand.
As long as it's moving forward, there's no reason. I mean, you've seen people stutter step, and
there's people. Yeah, Ronaldo's is way worse.
The reason I wanted to give it a name, though, because 20 years from now, when kids are looking back at the season the first 2 seasons that were for Atlanta United, they're going to remember these moments from Martinez where the way he takes penalties.
Coaches everywhere are just crying themselves to sleep. No. My kid's going to show up doing the hot penalty.
Because every kid already wants to like Panenka the keeper.
Exactly. There you go.
The key coaches are like, no, do not.
That's why I wanted to come up with a name for this, because we got to have something. There's going to be a callback to it at some point in our Atlanta United history. 10, 15, 20 years from now, someone's going to do this callback. Do a callback to the way.
Someone might even do it in tribute. There will be players mimicking. Someone's
going to do it, and we got to have a name for it. La Pausa is what we've decided because of the pause and the hop. Did you come up with it? Were there any other candidates or no?
No, that was my contribution. I was throwing that out there.
Have you guys ever asked Joseph about that, Joe? Like, just where does that come from? Or has he given any specific?
I've never asked him about it.
Unorthodox.
I've never asked him about it. I can't remember if he's ever mentioned it in a post game.
I don't think so.
I forget who asked the question. I want to say.
I'm sure Doug has asked about it. That's the kind of thing that would annoy Doug. It's the kind of thing that would annoy Doug, and Doug would want answers.
So I remember him saying that the reason he did it, I think the first time we saw it was against the Union, because I guess.
I think it might have been before that. And I remember him doing it against Dallas last year, but this year we saw it pretty much every time.
I think what it was asked after he did against Union. I don't. Sure, maybe he did it before, but that's when he actually asked him about the hop.
Okay.
And or La Pausa. And he mentioned that I guess him and Andre Blake have some kind of history with each other, so he knew how he took penalty kicks or something like that. And so just to kind of throw him off, he added that hop in there. Joseph added that hop in there. I mean, look, Andre Blake is one of the best goalkeepers I've ever seen, and he is stunned by the way that he takes PKs.
You can see just look at the
goalkeeper's
feet.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe
have no idea
talked about him kind of looking at the goalkeeper's movement as he runs up. If you look at goalkeeper's feet, a lot of times when Joseph takes a penalty, you can just see they have absolutely no idea how to react. Where the ball is going to end up.
They're trying to feint. They're trying to feint him one way.
It's not like they don't know he's going to do it, right?
Yeah.
But it just seems to throw goalkeepers off every time.
Not only that, but it in no way lets you as a goalkeeper know which way the ball's going. There is no tell.
Yeah.
A lot of the times in the run up or in the plant foot or whatever, but he's in the air so long.
I wonder if maybe
almost
that's the main
out.
reason. Is it disguises where he's going more so than anything? I don't know.
Because based on his run-up, you could think he's going to my left. I mean, as a goalkeeper, he's going to my right, to my left. Let me watch from behind real quick.
Okay.
You just can't tell. Honestly, you just can't tell.
I do like the twinkle toes. Jared Smith calls it like the Fred Flintstone, the little chopping the feet that he does on the run-up.
The master. So, but I'll tell you this. So, Joseph, no surprise from the penalty spot. Miguel Miron's goal.
I was going to say, we're surprised with his effort there because that was fantastic.
He
was more surprised than anyone.
He essentially admitted after the match that he called
it a miracle.
He called it a miracle.
Can I say
it was a miracle?
Look,
Doug asked me if he'd ever squared a free kick before, and he was like, "No, it was a miracle." He's like, "I may have scored one at Paris is it Cerro
Porteño?
Cerro Porteño. Yeah. As in the academy.
Oh wow!
Not as a professional. Yeah.
Wow. I love watching him score because every time he scores, it's like he scored for the first time. It's like his first big league, big moment in his career where he scored this goal. It's always this that smile. No one's ever going to replicate that. The amount of happiness that just exudes from that smile.
And I think that was the goal where you really felt like this is going to be your day. I mean,
after that, it could not be ruined for Atlanta United. How did that? Because the replays don't show how that foul even occurred.
Well,
it was a very cynical challenge by Yangel Herrera, which that was one of the challenges that was in. I think that Atlanta was kind of wanting a red card for. It was just a hack.
It was an orange card.
Breakaway.
It was an orange card. No, I mean, quote unquote orange card. I've seen red.
Okay, so we should probably talk about this because this was one of the main talking points coming out of this game was Atlanta's kind of frustration with Geiger and that they felt that there should have been a red card essentially. That some of these cynical challenges were crossing the line of cynicism and going into dangerous play. I think they're yellow cards. I'm going with you. Like they're orange cards. But I don't know. Just me personally as a fan, I would hate to see red cards in those situations. But at the same time, I do understand where they are coming from in that these challenges, while they are cynical and professional fouls that stop a breakaway, like they're not even close to the ball. Like their legs slashing across knees. Like that's the territory of where
that was a dangerous challenge. I mean, cleats down onto the calf. So you could have seen a red card given there. To be fair, during all the hubbub about the foul, Miguel Miron moves the ball up. Well, I don't know if he even moved the ball up or not, but he ends up taking that free kick about 5-6 yards closer to the goal.
Yeah,
I think it's 5 or 6 yards back. I don't think he's in a shooting position anymore. I don't think he can even shoot. So, I mean, we talked about the referee and Mark Geiger. That was a weird moment to me because Almiron may have moved the ball up, but if you look where the magic spray is, it's right there where he takes it. So I don't know if Geiger made the mistake of putting the free kick up too much, or for some reason New York didn't protest that it was 5 yards too far forward. I thought that was an interesting moment.
Well, this weekend in the Premier League, Cesc Fabregas, the ref sprayed the dot for where it should be. Cesc Fabregas picks up the foam and puts it 2 yards further up and just drops it and then replaces the ball right up.
So real quick,
I don't think Miguel did that.
I don't think so.
Just a quick aside. Apparently, I'm getting the Joseph Martinez Andre Blake story wrong. He didn't do that match.
He did not do the jump to throw him off.
Yeah, exactly. To throw him off.
But he did have a penalty against Philadelphia.
I knew it was something about their past.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
he'd been doing it before that.
Okay.
Yes. So I mean, it's
but thank you, Pumpkin Pie Dad at Thoughtmaker on Twitter. You think any relation to Alfred Dad?
No. I know Pumpkin Pie.
I know Thoughtmaker.
He is no Alfred.
And shout out. I hope Todd is watching. Todd said he was running home from dinner to get on jump on the line.
He said dinner with the family too, right?
Yeah.
I hope you.
He had to get home, throw the kids in bed.
Yeah. Shut those kids up and join them.
You will go to sleep, or I will put you to sleep.
So we had the two Atlanta United goals, and then we had NYCFC get one back. They kind of had a lifeline here, making it 2-1.
And I thought the criticism of Escobar was unfair on that goal because it's.
I thought it was. I mean,
is it David Villa who
kicks the ball? It deflects. I forget off of who, and then Chanot's the one that actually puts it in the back of the net. Escobar's reacting to the initial deflection. And, well, no, he's reacting to the shot initially. Deflection, in the moment that the shot happens and the deflection happens, he realizes I'm in trouble because the deflection is going right to Chanot, who is his man. But if that's a clean strike from David Villa, that's probably going straight to Gazan.
Everyone's expecting that on goal, or certainly not a deflection that ends up making it look like a cross. So, I mean, yes, it's an error, but it's nothing egregious. It was a tough spot that he was put in.
It doesn't that one moment for Escobar doesn't erase all the great things that he did over these two matches.
And it's a minor. I mean, that's a tough. It's very difficult to react that quickly to that sort of deflection.
Mm-hmm.
To me, though, I honestly the best goal of the 4 that we had, I think to me was the last one that Atlanta scored against NYCFC. I could not believe how beautiful that pass from Moretti was to Joseph Martinez. For those of you who might not play soccer, that ball that Joseph Martinez chests down is incredibly difficult coming from the angle that it's coming from.
Yeah, and the volley's tough too.
Yeah,
straight on from
the whole thing is world class, really. Even the finish is typical Joseph, I guess.
But it's, I mean, I think
was good.
And that matters. I mean, that matters. I think that he has a little more confidence scoring that goal from the run of play. You know, and I think there's been a little bit too much talk about the quote-unquote scoring drought, and we've covered it extensively. You know, still getting chances, still involved in the build-up. I would add, led the team in chances created over the 2 legs, so he's affecting the game in more ways than just scoring goals, but it matters. I mean, mentally for a striker to see the ball hit the back of the net with a finish like that from the run of play.
Get the roar from the crowd, all that stuff.
Yeah, it definitely I think is a great boost to him and the team. Going into the Red Bull series for sure.
Yeah. United advances to the Eastern Conference Finals. By the way, did you guys see the TIFO? You guys get a chance to check that out?
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the best ones I've seen.
It's amazing.
I can't give that enough props. I got a chance to talk to the co-creator, I want to say. Chi Sato is her name. She is, I believe, involved with the FX show Archer. She does some of the artistic stuff for them. If you notice how similar it looked to what you might see on Archer, that might be why. I got a chance to talk to her after the match. Seeing Tata's reaction was I got a chance to talk to her on Twitter. Seeing Tata's reaction was worth the stress of drawing the damn thing, and it makes me so happy to touch so many fans as well. Very excited that she got to do it. Very excited that she got to interact with the supporters groups, kind of bond with them a little bit, and
I'm glad they got to see that reaction from Tata.
Yeah, agreed. I'm glad they caught that on tape because that was awesome.
Yeah, I think that's important for fans to see the reaction to these things that have, you know, real human reactions and emotions attached to
them.
Anything else to the game? Because we got other.
Yeah, can I just double down on NYCFC are little bitches? Because the way they behaved in this game was comically. I mean, so
starts at the top.
I'm gonna have a piece on this.
His post-match interview was
the post-match comments were ridiculous, and I thought that was a completely legitimate question of why was
absolutely.
Burgett. Is it Burgett?
Joeing Burgett.
Joeing Burgett. The bald guy, as I remember.
The bald guy.
Yeah.
That was a legitimate question. Why is he not in the 18?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't some hot take like why did you go with Medina and Jerry Sharadi on the wings to start? It was why did you not carry an attacking player when you knew you might be in a spot where you're chasing the game? And he called the guy an effing disaster and then the quote coming into the match.
He didn't call Joe Burgett an
No.
He called the reporter
who I believe writes for The Athletic. And again, I thought it was a perfectly fine question. And then the quote he had coming in about how New York City is not going to put up with Atlanta diving. Well, guess what? If you're going to commit cynical fouls all over the pitch, Atlanta is perfectly within their rights to stay down another 10, 15 seconds. In one sequence, I'm going to have a piece about this in Dirty South Soccer. I spoke with Joe today. I didn't expect to have like anything to write about from the rewatch because tactically it was similar. You know, I had a piece on the first leg of Atlanta United's tactics, but I was just so shocked by how much of their own time NYCFC wasted throughout the second half. And there was starting with Valentin Castellanos coming off the bench and being suckered into a little altercation with Brad Guzan over nothing.
Yeah.
That wastes 30 seconds.
Castellanos headbutts him.
Yeah, he headbutts him. He tries to somehow
he headbutts Guzan, then tries to act like he got.
And then the other thing is, what that does is it kind of forces everyone to surround the referee and be like, you need to check this on VAR, which wastes even more time. And then later in the half, he runs over Franco Escobar by the sideline, knocks him into the advertising boards, which is unnecessary. And then on the free kick, NYCFC's wall is not 10 yards away. So they waste even more time. And then just after that, Maxi Morales with a really cynical challenge. And that's what I think people are forgetting about is the challenge on Almiron at the corner flag from Maxi Morales. Very, very cynical. So this was happening throughout the second half where we were seeing, we alluded to it last week, this kind of faux toughness that you expect from an Orlando. You expect that from losers, right?
Yeah,
you expect that from teams that don't handle adversity well, that they start to lash out. And in the end, give the opposing team an advantage by giving them a way to kill time.
Even West Ham does this all the time.
Absolutely right. Right. Even Darlington Nagbe being subbed off, walking off the pitch. And two players try to
hurry him
push
along.
him.
Yeah.
So what Nagbe takes advantage, turns around and talks back to the players. So again, you're wasting your own time. And I thought the way that New York behaved in the second half was just ridiculous. And it played into Atlanta United's hands. And I think it's a lesson to young players. It's something I tell a lot of my teams when I coach is, if you're getting hacked a lot by the other team, it usually means that they're frustrated. It usually means that you are getting one over on them. So you just don't react, waste some time, and they're just going to become more and more frustrated. Don't play their game. And that's what Atlanta United did. And New York City masters of their own demise in a lot of ways there.
Well, you're getting some backup on the YouTube chat. Elliot Bevan. David Villa was a baby.
Villa behaved ridiculously.
B. Ellis.
He was shamefully in both legs.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Eric. I mean, they never really. You talked about their game being based on chaos and being physical.
Honestly, that's the only. I'm convinced now that's the only way they have solid success is because their game plan is based off the chaos that's created in New York on that small
team. I think maybe that's the MO. But I think we saw kind of as Joe said, and I think it starts with Dom and Turan. Is that there's a top-down issue with mentality because this type of chaos that NYCFC was searching out was only hurting their own cause. And
we saw for Atlanta United on that. Not
absolutely. I mean, Atlanta United said, okay, well, I said.
You had Joseph Martinez on a yellow. You had, I think, LGP on a yellow.
Remetti on a
yellow.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, Atlanta United played it perfectly. They realized don't pick up a dumb card like you were saying, Eric. Don't get up in someone's face. But they also realize if you want to come hack us, you're just going to waste your own time. And so I go back to that statement from Tehran about not putting up with Atlanta United's diving. And what I look back on that, and really, I just think at that point already, before the second leg even starts, you can tell Atlanta United are simply in New York's heads.
Two more comments I have on the chat, both from B. Ellis. Basically, he's doubling down on your NYCFC as a bunch of bitches. No, what was it?
Little bitches.
Little bitches.
I don't want to disrespect normal bitches. They were little bitches. Like I say, you can be a bitch and be effective, but this was not impactful bitches.
He says, yes, you can double down. A bunch of a-hole garbage goons and lost his respect for David Villa. He's been a great player, but acted badly. Very.
So, I still have mad respect for David Villa, obviously.
I respect him, the player.
But it was surprising, right? You wouldn't expect him to be. Well, there was the play where he backed into Guzan trying to win a penalty kick and rolled around. You undercut him another. I mean, it was just
desperate times, man. Desperate times.
Yeah. Well, hey,
desperate times for NYC.
And you talk about that 30% possession number for Atlanta United, but I think there were probably 4 to 5 minutes of just the ball being dead in the second half because of NYCFC hacking players down, and again, not for a tactical reason.
Yeah. Just
out of frustration.
Any other aspects of the match that we want to talk about? The crowd was loud. That was fantastic.
Brilliant.
Keep that up. Next week, November 20th is the game, right?
And we called it. We said this is a game where the crowd can really impact the match, and that's not something that we say a lot. And I think they did. I think that was a big reason for New York losing their composure.
We want to double that noise, all that excitement, all that craziness. You want to truly be the 12th man on the.
Oh, I got to meet a couple of our listeners, by the way. Speaking of, in the Gulch, got to meet Robert Swick, the Swick. One of my favorite Twitter.com personalities, and also Thomas Gowin. Who also enjoy. We both had our Tata tributes on. We had
Thomas.
Our
I just imagine is there's not even a body. It's just like a shirt and a hat just floating around.
From his Twitter
that's how I imagine Thomas. That's
great guy. We walked around the tailgate. I think he said his name is pronounced Gowin. I remember we had a long discussion about how to pronounce his last name, but to be honest, I don't
remember much.
I mean, it's not that I wasn't listening to you, Thomas. It's just that I don't remember a lot of specifics of what happened.
I will say I
had a blast meeting all you.
I was surprised how many people went to the match with their tribute to Tata.
Yeah,
I got a ton of tweets. I didn't even expect to get one. I got at least 5 or 6 of them, and I was showing it to all my peeps at the wedding.
I went to the Gulch looking for Josh, and he was too far gone.
Yeah, I wasn't available at that point.
All right. So, anything else regarding the game before we move on to something that's not the game?
Covered it pretty well.
We covered it. Yeah.
Okay. So the season ticket holder thing, in regards to the MLS Cup final. I'm not a season ticket holder.
I am.
You are, but then you get the email.
Yeah. I think that's user error on my part. I think I probably opted out of their emails thinking it was like a fan council thing or something.
Gotcha. So before we dive really deep into it, let me better explain. I get MLS Cup final tickets went out to, I guess the pre-sale went out to season ticket holders.
Mm-hmm.
Some people weren't aware or weren't informed or tried to get the tickets and the code either didn't work or the site crashed or whatever. As people were trying to get these tickets, chaos has ensued when it comes to actually being able to make the purchase. You didn't get the email. That might be because you opted out of getting those emails.
Yeah, so I think I opted out because they also weren't in the spam folder, but it was no problem for me. I do want to say, it was a smooth process for me. Other than that, it was a little bit after 9:00 that morning. I just emailed tickets at atlutd.com. I just said, hey, I'm a season ticket holder. Didn't get the email, and I know I'm supposed to have some sort of unique password to get in. 10 minutes later, they said, I gave them my information in the email. I said, this is my account number. 10 minutes later, they emailed me the little identification I need to get in. Got in, got my ticket.
Good to go.
Done. Yeah, it was painless.
Yeah.
You got the email, and you had a similar experience?
My experience was very good.
Okay.
But I think...
We'll talk about your experience first.
Okay, so you're right. Let me go through my personal experience. So I'm always worried about this stuff. So I actually...
By the way, of course, League Media, but he is very much a season ticket holder, and...
I've never missed the match. 100% attendance.
Never in the press box. Does not have...
Yes.
Cannot say that he's enjoyed the 6 cheese mac and cheese.
I have not enjoyed, but I can also get wasted before the match, unlike you.
That you can.
Yeah, so, Jameson sometimes beats mac and cheese. I'm just saying. Anyways, so my personal experience was I found out real early because I wanted to basically how the playoffs started was you can opt into, for those that don't know, a pay-as-you-play kind of situation where you're getting charged automatically for the next playoff match if United advanced. But the first email about that went out in late September, and I asked them, late October, and I immediately asked my ticket rep, what about MLS Cup tickets? I see this isn't included. And I got a response that they'll be sold separately. And so I'm in a group of 6 folks, but we have our season tickets are not under one name. So we all had our separate pre-sale codes. And what basically happened is they sent you a code. They gave you a link for the pre-sale. You plugged your code in there. You went and got your tickets. I was literally sitting there watching the clock tick down second by second. The second it hit 9 a.m., I logged in. We got our tickets. We were able to secure them. The problem, I think, was that the communication was flawed in a few ways. But basically, we put something on the Twitter earlier asking people what their experience was. And I was shocked by how many replies we got. We got over 100 replies. And it seemed like a lot of people, the main thing people weren't clear on was that your specific seats weren't reserved.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I was on there, at 8:59 watching the seconds tick down because I wanted to sit in my normal seats. People, I think for the most part knew, and it was mentioned kind of in the fine print of these emails, that the MLS Cup tickets were going to be sold separately and on their own because it's an MLS Cup event. But it wasn't really made clear that you weren't going to have access to your normal tickets. So I think a lot of people were surprised by that. And what the situation that created, and this is what I'm noticing, is that a lot of people just basically bought tickets in their normal section and just bought in the first 5 rows.
Yeah.
And those tickets went like that. 5-10 minutes. Our seats are a little more elevated. So my experience, I might have been lucky. We're in 133. We're a little higher up in row 34.
Because the pricing is only by section. It's not by where in the section you are.
And as soon as we bought the tickets, one of my buddies was like, oh, we should just bought them further up in row 1.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people that were sitting those first 5, maybe the 10 rows, saw their tickets get snapped up really quick and aren't able to sit in their normal seats. So I think we're seeing a bunch of different stuff. But the main thing I'm seeing where maybe the club and fans can learn some lessons for the future is just to realize that if you want to sit in your same seat, there needs to be a sense of urgency. You need to be right on there at 9 a.m. and kind of have your fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
By the same token, I think the club really, or MLS,
but yeah, MLS
really needed to communicate that these seats, especially because Atlanta United's never hosted MLS Cup before. This is our first time doing this as fans. That it needed to be communicated that the pre-sale was just like the All-Star game. Your seats are not reserved, and I think you have a little less pushback today with people not being able to get the seats they've sat in all season.
Yeah, I think it's I think they just need to be a little more clear about what they mean when they say, that this is an MLS event, not an Atlanta event, or whatever it was they say. Just be more transparent about it. Just be more. Don't try to disguise what you're saying by trying not to offend or trying not to be unfair.
I think can I just say what we're trying to avoid is getting this pre-sale out there and having all the secondary market people buy as many tickets as they can. I think the intent was to wait as long as possible.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So that this email goes out. It's just the season ticket holders, and they're the ones that are going to be mainly buying up these tickets. You've seen it. That's not really the case because we've already seen them on the secondary market for twice as much now.
At least.
But I think that's what they were trying to avoid. And I don't think it worked because, again, we've already seen them on the secondary market, and you've got this crazy lack of communication. It's basically the same story tweeted over and over and over again. It's, I couldn't connect or I couldn't.
And then you have the issues with Ticketmaster kind of.
Yeah, Ticketmaster issues.
Malfunctioning. So I really do have
communication.
Sympathy for those
people. It was pretty much the same thing over and over again. But there are some people that got in, got out, no problem. Like you, Joe.
And I was looking at the map earlier. That I hear some people saying that they had to get tickets in the 300s. There are still seats available in the 100s. So I'm not too. Those are the main horror. Like the worst stories you're hearing are, I could get my seats now. I'm sitting in the 300s. So I don't really understand that angle because there are still lots of seats available.
Maybe it's people who only had a certain price range and didn't want to go over a certain price range, and so the only tickets that are still available are over that price range.
That's very true.
So they can only be in the 300s. But
so I think the issue comes with what's happened with Red Bulls in the past, where apparently, and Andy Brand brings this up in the chat, where they go through the same process and they do get their seats. Now the problem becomes Red Bulls don't have the number of season tickets. Yeah. This is all based off the fact that Atlanta United has like 40, 50,000
huge demand. Yeah.
There's no way 50,000 they're going to give 40 to 50,000 people priority pass over first come first serve type of ticket deals. You got to remember this is a MLS event. This is as much as it is for the fans, is equally for the corporate sponsors of MLS, for Atlanta United, and for whoever the other team playing ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
This is it's 50% for the fans, 50% for all the corporate sponsors.
And that's one thing.
Don't get it mixed up. It's just like the Super Bowl, except that there's more loyalty with soccer, it seems. So there's gonna be a lot more fans actually there, versus where the Super Bowl is just one big massive corporate.
And I do think that's a good point, Eric. It's definitely apples and oranges when you compare Red Bulls, where you have if you have that few season, I don't say few season ticket holders, Atlanta United just has that many. It's easier to place those people in their same seats and still have seats reserved for other people. When you have that many people that have season tickets, you're going to have to, like you said, Eric, you have your corporate seats. I don't know exactly how it works, but there are some seats that are going to need to be blocked off. I think the main issue here, again, is just the kind of vague communication. And
I agree. It clearly was poorly communicated.
I want to
if all these people have the same problems, it was clearly poorly communicated.
Yeah,
I do think that something should be done for the season ticket holders. Something should have been done better for the season ticket holders specifically. And I don't know what the answer is because again, 40, 50,000 season ticket holders, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So in a 70,000 seat stadium.
So I do think, and just kind of to piggyback on what you were saying about the communication, the first communication of this in an email that as I mentioned, the first time this was mentioned was basically at the bottom of an email where you could opt into the pay-as-you-play program for the playoffs. And what they had said was the 2000 MLS Cup is not included in the pay-as-we-play plan and will be communicated separately should Atlanta United advance. So again, that's very vague, right? Communicated separately. It doesn't say anything about your specific tickets. And then Sunday at 11:30 is when you're notified of the presale. Monday afternoon, you got the presale code. So it was this kind of vague, you're going to buy them separately. We'll communicate it on our own, but we're not going to tell you the process. And then basically you had a little more than 24 hours to prepare yourself. And so one of the solutions, because I think if this happens again,
prepare yourself to buy tickets, but not know exactly.
That's a big part, right?
If they had let these people know that they needed to prepare themselves not only to buy their tickets, but to pick the seat in which they're going to buy the ticket for.
Yeah. And I think Atlanta United
at least is communicated a little bit better.
Could have recognized better that this was going to be an issue. And we've seen them send out, the mass calls where you get the robot voicemail over various things. So I think they could have maybe, and MLS could have done a better job too, kind of handled the situation better. One interesting solution I've heard is you have kind of a time limit for season ticket holders where their seats are reserved, say 9 to 10 a.m., 9 to 11 a.m., and with the exception, of course, of seats that are already taken or reserved. And then after that, it's a first come, first serve thing. So I would hope that while this is a tough situation, I hope that, well, first of all, I hope it does happen again because that means that United's going to be up. But I hope that if it does, that there is either more clarity or there is a system in place where season ticket holders can get into or at least close to where they've been sitting all season.
I will say that CK Lopez on the chat says that why not give supporters season ticket holders precedence if we're willing to pay the same price. The problem becomes that you still got to find a way to fit all these corporate people in.
And look, we still got to get them first. I mean, so they did prioritize this in a matter of speaking. I just think it's a matter of not explaining.
Here's what I would suggest, because I think the anger is directed towards Atlanta United when it shouldn't be. I have a feeling that Atlanta United was informed of all
Huge
this,
part of this
about a day, maybe less, than when you, the season ticket holder, were informed about it.
Which might be the reason for the vague communication.
Right. My suggestion, there's about 5,000 to 6,000 people that listen to each episode of the podcast. Make sure all of you who are season ticket holders write MLS a nice little letter. Mail them a nice little email. Do what you got to do to send them. Let them know why this is not working. Why this doesn't work for you, the fan. Because that's the only solution I can think of that would actually help change something for next year. Because LAFC, if they ever make it, they're gonna have the same problem. Atlanta United, if we happen to do this again next year, we're gonna run the same problem. It might not be as big. We might know what we're doing this time. But you're still going to have the issue where you're not reserved the same seat that you had as a season ticket.
If it's an MLS run event, which it is, and that's what we keep hearing, MLS should have shown a little more foresight here and realized, wow, Atlanta United's pretty good. Their stadium's huge. They have a gazillion season ticket holders.
They got angry fans when they're angry.
We need to get I mean, I'm not crapping on Atlanta fans here.
Not at all. I think you should use your anger and direct it towards MLS and force them to change what they have to change.
No, I agree.
Better for
my
next
issue
year.
with the club is so minor. It's
I'm not a season ticket, so I'm not gonna.
I actually talked to somebody with MLS, and I asked them about this, not necessarily about getting tickets for MLS Cup, but just ticketing in general for the final. And they said that it operates the same way as the All-Star game. It's under MLS control. It's not an Atlanta United thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So again, MLS are the ones who didn't show the foresight, didn't seemingly communicate with Atlanta United, and that's how we end up in this position in the first place. So, and you guys are absolutely right. A lot of the complaints we've heard that have been directed Atlanta United's way probably should have gone to MLS. And the only thing that I would say Atlanta United could have done better was just to immediately let people know your seats are not reserved, as they did with the All-Star game, I thought, rather well, and this was a similar situation. Communicate it better. Let people know if you want to get in your seats. We don't know the exact process, but your seats aren't going to be reserved. So you're going to have a little sense of urgency and be ready to get on Ticketmaster at a very specific time and get your tickets.
I would just say direct your anger towards MLS,
agreed.
Not so much Atlanta United. And you can voice your displeasure towards Atlanta United, but know that they weren't the ones that did this thing. At least we're pretty sure, we're 100% confident saying they're not the one. Okay, just want to make sure before I said that. But again, direct your anger towards MLS, not so much the club. You can
They just had to use Atlanta United as like a conduit to get to the fans, right?
Voice your concerns with Atlanta United, but again, remember that they're not the ones that did this to you.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine, hopefully this, like I said, hopefully this happens again. I imagine it'll be a much smoother process now that the fans have gone through it. Now that MLS and Atlanta United have kind of recognized.
And if they're going to change anything, they should be very transparent with how it's going to work, specifically for the season ticket holders, because the reason Atlanta United works as hard as they do to get a top seed in the league is so that they can have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. What's the whole point of home field advantage if the season ticket holders can't get a hold of their seats, their tickets, whatever?
And again, people in the chat saying, Red Bulls fans, they're getting to sit in their assigned seats. They don't have
their seats suck.
And no one's there anyway. You can go sit wherever you want. But that's totally apples and oranges.
You're not going to put a bunch of corporate people in the upper deck. You're not going to put all of them in the upper deck. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a completely different.
I'm just explaining how it works. I'm not trying to be the bad guy, but I'm just explaining how it works. You're not the box. All the suites are going to be filled out with corporate people. You're going to have corporate people sprinkled around all over the entire stadium. So,
it's a tough situation.
I just hope.
It basically, the only thing I can say is it is what it is, and this is how the Super Bowl works. This is how basically any major final.
Yeah,
how it works.
I hope that if Atlanta United is in MLS Cup final, I hope that the supporter section that's
intact. I imagine that is intact. I would be shocked.
It looked to me like anyone could buy a supporter section ticket. Although I assume that if someone buys a ticket there, I hope they're going because it's the supporter section, not just because it's the cheapest ticket kind of in the lower bowl. But we'll see.
Let's be real. Anyone going to MLS Cup knows what MLS Cup is, knows what the soccer culture is, right? For the most part, even if you are a sponsor and just going for the. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine so.
That's true. If it was only open to season ticket holders, I'm sure that they would. If they're getting a ticket in there, it's because they want to be in there.
Some of the news and notes from Atlanta United from the week that we wanted to hit on. Atlanta United surpasses the 1 million attendance mark, which is fantastic. You can piggyback that off the fact that Forbes valued Atlanta United as the
most valuable
MLS club. That also fantastic, considering 2 years in, I think $330 million.
Yeah, 330 million, and it'll only go up. It's rising.
You've got Tata Martino, who's been named Coach of the Year. I thought very fair. I thought there was a close second with Bob Bradley, based off the work he's done with LAFC. The players they brought in, how they've been able to essentially build a club. Now, how do you want to look at manager of the year, coach of the year, as someone that builds a club or someone that's actually coaching the team? You could argue that Bob Bradley was doing a lot more with a lot less. I would also contend that you've got a guy in Tata Martino who taught his team how to go from a 4-man back line to a 5-man back line and switch it on a dime whenever he wants. You also had the loss of Barco and the how do I want to say it?
I mean, that was a potentially
the romantic overtures,
locker room destroying situation.
You had romantic overtures. You also had the fact that he just didn't fit the system as well as I think maybe you thought initially.
Yeah,
so you had to figure out how to manage that. Look, as much as Atlanta United paid for him, there's no sourness in the locker room. It seems from Barco, from the players, from anyone. It just seems like everything is just smooth sailing.
Miguel jumped right into his arms after he scored that goal.
That's hard to do.
Yeah,
that is hard to do. That's hard. It's hard to manage a club like that.
I think it's just hard for any manager that's starting an expansion franchise to just get that. There's so much they're responsible for. That's not even. I mean, so much more than just the stuff on the field. And the stuff on the field is incredibly difficult to do when you're gathering a bunch of guys together for the first time. So I actually voted for Bob Bradley in this. If I could have had a runner-up, it definitely would have been Tata, obviously. But I think I would have. I may have voted for. I didn't vote last year, but I probably would have voted for Tata last year just because of what he did during the expansion season. So
I also voted for every other.
I think they took Eric's vote away and gave it to Joe. I think it was a direct.
Actually, I don't know why I didn't get the email, but
well, I didn't get a direct email. I figured out how to. I hacked.
I see.
So
I got the Jeremiah.
One of the things I thought really interested me was that Tata lost the media vote, thanks to folks like Joe. and I know this isn't how you see it, Joe, but I thought it was very interesting that Steve Davis, who was on the radio, one of the FC Dallas radio commentators, and is a great follow, by the way. It's Steve Davis.
Yeah, good guy.
He got a vote, and he didn't. I don't think he said who he voted for. I think he might have said he voted for.
I think Bob Bradley.
For Bradley, but he said he didn't vote for Tata Martino, and he said because he said of course he's a great manager, but he also benefits from having two legit MLS MVP candidates, two other best 11 candidates, Parkhurst and Kuzan, and of course we could throw Perez into that mix as well. And he just said I happen to believe guys like Bradley, Vermees, Berhalter deserve this more, essentially saying, as you mentioned earlier, that maybe they did more with less. So I kind of wanted to get, before I address, I want to kind of get y'all's take on this. Obviously, that's not why you made your decision, Joe, but do you think that Tata Martino was a manager who has kind of benefited a lot from the talent at his disposal and maybe hasn't managed that talent so much as they've just been that good?
No, I disagree with that. I think that, well, I mean, it's not to say that the players he has at his disposal aren't talented. They're extremely talented.
Right.
They're going to go on. Miguel Almiron's going to be sold to a Premier League team for $20 million plus, probably. But I think that you have to give Tata credit for. It's like you can't. I said this when I was on Stoppage Time Live a couple weeks ago. Sometimes we mix up the effect and the cause. Like you can't take the effect and make it the cause, which is an old White Stripes song. It's a chicken and the egg situation. I think that some of those players, Michael Parkhurst, Jeff Lorenos, these guys are having career revivals because they're playing under Tata Martino, not the other way around. They're not having, it's not like they're just playing well, and that's what's making Tata's resume so great. That's not what's, you had to kind of find the cause for why these things are happening. I don't think Joseph Martinez would have a record amount of goals if he's playing in another team. He might be very effective, but the way that Tata has kind of managed the team is in a way that has allowed all these players to flourish to their maximum ability.
And let's not forget that Joseph Martinez was not an out-and-out number 9 in Europe.
Yeah,
so Tata Martino was the manager who put him in a position to succeed and have that type of revival he's had. All I hope is, because I have no issue with someone voting for Bradley or Vermees, who I thought was fantastic with Kansas City this year. Once again, one of the best managers in MLS, him. But I just hope that this isn't the reason that the media didn't vote for Tata Martino, because they looked and said, oh, he's already got all that talent. Because you mentioned it, Joe, Parkhurst, Laurentowicz, old guys playing arguably the best of their careers. Eric, you mentioned Julian Gressel. We could add Miles Robinson to that list. Super draft picks.
George Bello. Essentially turning all of your young players into wonderful utility pieces that you could.
Mikey Ambrose.
Yeah, Mikey Ambrose. Tito Villalba hadn't played a lot of first-team football, had a lot of injuries at San Lorenzo over the last 18 months before he came over. Mm-hmm. Martinez viewed as a failure in Europe before he came over.
Even Brad Guzan. Think about what he was in Europe and what he's become now.
It's
not the same level, but
yeah.
I mean, you could even say Alec Can.
He kind of got laughed out of England.
So you can go down the line, whether it's the old dudes, whether it's MLS super draft picks, whether it's academy kids, whether it's talented guys like Martinez or Villalba who maybe needed some revitalization of their careers. All those guys are playing at a great clip. That's not a coincidence. That's because of the manager.
I think if you go by this criteria that we're seeing, that you can't necessarily give it to a guy like Tata Martino because he has all these great players at his disposal. I don't like that line of reasoning, and I don't like it for the same. We hear it a lot with the MVP, like, oh, Joseph shouldn't be MVP because he's playing with all these other great players, or Miguel, or whatever. It should be Nacho Piatti. He's really been the most valuable to his team. What would they be without him? Well, it's like, yeah, but in that case, the MVP would always come from a team that really isn't that good that's, being carried by one player who's barely making the playoffs. Because if they didn't have that player, they'd be at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, you don't see
it's like, yeah,
Jim
okay.
Curtin in the list for Coach of
But
the
that's
Year,
not how we traditionally vote for these awards. And you can debate about like what it should be called. Maybe it should be called Most Outstanding Player or whatever. But, get over it. It's called the MVP, and it generally goes to the best player that's on the best team or somewhere close to it,
Joe,
I've had enough of this.
Are you willing to tell us who you voted for everything, for all the awards?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So
I don't have them
let's
in front
start
of
with
me.
let's start with
remember.
the stupid ones like Newcomer of the Year and Comeback Player of the Year. They might as well have a six-man award as well.
Yeah, they.
Who you got
I don't remember. I think I voted Baird for Rookie of the Year. Comeback Player of the Year, I had Zardes.
Okay.
For the referees, I was just like basically Googling the names so I could look at their faces because I don't know their names. I just know their faces, and it was just like a drop down menu of names, so I had to like Google it.
Who was up for it?
There was actually an assistant referee of the year that you could vote for.
What?
I don't know. I don't remember who I voted for with the referees.
Okay,
what other categories are there?
Well, Rookie of the Year is Baird.
I think Baird.
Okay.
I think Baird.
Coach of the Year, we went through.
Bradley.
MVP.
Joseph.
Okay. Are we missing Defender of the Year?
Defender of the Year, I had Aaron Long, I want to say. Which I think he made best 11, right?
Schrader.
Yeah.
He made the
I like that vote.
he won the award.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Again, these are the reasons that your vote, Eric's vote, was removed. Because Eric probably would have said Miles Robinson or something like that.
I did put LGP in my best 11. I really think he deserves to be at one of the best defenders of the year. And I heard a lot of people say, oh, well, he'll never get credit for what he does with the ball from the back. But, screw it. It's my vote. And I think that he should get credit for what he does with the ball. So,
and I think Parkhurst and Pierre has been a great center back pairing. Eric and I discussed this last week. I think Parkhurst has been up for a lot of awards as an MLS veteran that really, if you look at the two of them, that Perez should be the one that's up.
Parkhurst has kind of come up, but he was struggling. He had kind of had a different form this
season. Newcomer, did I ask you Newcomer of the Year?
Zlatan.
Zlatan over Rooney.
Yeah. I didn't even have Rooney in my 11.
I'm fine with that.
My best 11.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I had Luciano Acosta.
Well, that makes sense though because I feel like Zlatan had a quiet, like 20 goals in half a season or something.
I mean, if he had played a full season, he'd be right there with Joseph.
Exactly.
That would be fun.
Honestly, I would contend that he probably beats out Joseph for the record for.
Maybe so. I mean, at the rate he was scoring,
it was incredible.
If you assume he keeps that up, what about? So you got goalkeeper of the year.
I voted Fry, which he didn't win.
Trade.
It went to Stefan.
He was quite upset. He didn't. He didn't.
Yes, he did.
He couldn't believe it. So, do you remember your best 11?
Yeah. So my best 11 was Joseph, Zlatan, Luciano Acosta, Ignacio Piatti, Miguel Almiron, Tyler Adams, LGP, Aaron Long, Kamar Lawrence, and Graham Zusi.
So you at least attempted to have some balance
I had
Adams
two fullbacks, two center backs. I wanted a defensive midfielder in there.
Any guys you left out of that they really thought about quite a bit? Bella
was the toughest one to keep out. Like his stats were so good, but great. I wanted to keep my 11 kind of actually usable.
He was a bit too off and on to make first 11. He went through some big goals.
It was such a splash at the beginning.
There were some other ones too. Tim Parker, I wanted to put in there. I almost you could honestly the New York Rebels backline. Yeah. All four of those guys. Michael Murillo too was one of the best right backs in MLS.
He's been really great.
But yeah.
Have you watched much Will Johnson? I think can we get him in there?
He was my humanitarian of the year.
That's so perfect.
Orlando's the humanitarian of the year for giving him another year of contract. Air horn, very good.
That's so perfect.
That's good. Interesting. Anyways, I'm pretty much with you in all that, Joe.
I don't want to look at Orlando stuff.
You're a good, reliable award.
Man, I wish I had that ham horn. Andy.
How clearly is that going to come up on the recording?
No, it'll come up fine. Yeah.
Hopefully. It went better than our little breaking news music we had during the radio show earlier.
Yeah, you should have heard that. By the way, if you haven't noticed, we do have a radio show. We've
7
mentioned
o'clock
it-
Wednesdays
We've
in Sports
mentioned it
X.
a number of times. We're doing that on purpose. Joseph Martinez and Miggy both earn MLS Best 11 honors. I think for us, there's really no doubt. But the other piece of news, Darlington Nagbe week to week with a hamstring strain. He's going to keep him out of
He's fine.
He's going to keep him out of
Probably.
playing with the U.S. men's national team. And you and I differ with potentially the reason. Well, whatever. I think that he is – I think someone told him, listen, you've got a sore hamstring. No, I don't, Coach. No, you've got a sore hamstring. No, I don't, Coach. No, you're not understanding me. You have a sore hamstring. I can see it from here. We're going to put some ice on it, and you've got a sore hamstring. Go, elevate. What is it? Rest, ice,
Compression,
and elevate.
Yeah, there you go.
So I think that's what's happening. And Guzan, we're not really worried about because
I saw he had an ice pack on his hamstring after the game, but he was like picking up his kids and with his family after. He didn't seem to be having a limp or anything like that. He seemed fine, seemed happy. So I can only assume that he will be fine. It wasn't like a ton of ice. It wasn't like a huge thing. It was just like a little ice pack.
Some of the other players on international duty, it looks like Miggy and Tito are going to go with Paraguay and Joseph Martinez with Venezuela. But, Joseph Martinez,
this is
some
not
kind of crazy nonsense. This is ridiculous. He's going from November 16th in 2 days, Friday. He's going to Japan. Then he's getting on a plane and going to Qatar to play on the 20th.
I really hope he gets sent back early from that. And it seems like Atlanta United has had a relationship with the Venezuelan national team where he's been sent back early.
He was sent back early the last
two, I want to say.
Last two? Okay.
I want to say. Definitely the last one. I want to say the last two he's been sent back early.
Does Bocanegra have that conversation or is that Darren Eales?
Or is that Tata?
Probably
No,
Darren.
I bet Tata's not.
I think probably Darren.
I don't think he's got some boys.
Probably,
I don't know.
Probably Boca.
I'm not sure. Boca would have to translate it anyway, so both of them.
Because if it's Boca, I could see where they'd be like, yes, sir, whatever you want.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't have to make that Qatar trip. That would be awful. That would be really bad. And it's already really bad, like what these national federations are doing with these teams. Like they're just flying them around to the places where they'll get the most money for playing in a friendly. It's not great.
Hold on. Talk amongst yourself while I look something up real quick.
Yeah, I put together like this schedule for Dirty South Soccer of where these players are going to be, and it was disturbing. And then Miguel and Tito are going to South Africa, which is not a quick trip.
No, that's like a 14-hour flight.
Yeah. So
and these are all 5 days before Atlanta United faces Red Bulls at home.
And oh wow, another one. Good. But let's it goes both ways. Red Bulls, Tyler Adams is going. Fidel Escobar and Murillo, who you just mentioned, playing with Panama. Aaron Long, Tim Parker also going with the USA. Kaku, another one going with Paraguay. Kamara Lawrence with Jamaica. Derek Etienne with Haiti. Christian Caceres, who's I'm not sure how involved he'll be, is with the Venezuelan U20s. So it goes both ways. I mean, New York will be missing a lot of players over the international break as well. But certainly, I'm not too sure the specifics of these guys' travel, other than the USA players. But I can't imagine anybody is
comfortable leg room.
Atlanta to Japan to Qatar has to be
nice reclining seat.
Oh, it'll be nice.
My computer's about to die. Just so you guys know, I can see the batteries red from here.
Uh-oh. The live stream might go dead. Why? We covered everything.
Yeah, we got it. Just a couple questions that I want to throw out for the people on YouTube, just because they've been with us so long. I want to Chris Lombardi. So no basis in this at all, but I thought of this the other day. Could Tata possibly go to Inter Miami? No head coach yet. Easier for him and his family. Would be paid well with top talent on the way.
No chance for me.
No
chance.
But maybe long term. I mean, maybe
long term.
5-6
At
years.
some point, I could see him wanting
he wants to come back to MLS and
sure. Whenever Messi decides to come out MLS, maybe then. I still think that's a long way away.
Yeah.
I don't think even then. I think once he leaves MLS, I think that I'll put it this way. I hope that the bond he has created with Atlanta United and the community and the way he built up Atlanta United from the ground up, I hope that is too much to.
He'll come back.
In the first presser he did after he announced, he said he mentioned it that he would come back.
Damn, he's definitely going now.
Maybe we'll see. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we see him back in MLS, and maybe if the U.S. men's national team starts interviewing more than one candidate.
Yeah, what is that? What the?
I don't know. Like I said, I mean,
who interviews one person for a job?
I don't know.
Is that even an interview at that point?
I don't know why you guys commit so much of your
I'm looking for that
emotional time as fans to a program that is not 100% committed to winning.
Well,
I'm just not going to waste my time.
Josh on his high.
I'm not going to waste my time. I want him to win, but
I've got Uruguay's backup, so I'm good.
Yeah, I'll take Uruguay as a backup too.
I need to go on Ancestry.com.
What has Ernie Stewart been doing? He interviewed one candidate this whole time. What has he been doing?
I was really hoping that wasn't true, and that the whole you need to speak English thing wasn't true. But now that we got this out, I cannot believe that there's only been one interview for the U.S. men's national team. I can't believe it's the most obvious choice, and I can't believe that some of the other guys within MLS haven't been interviewed.
And who are English speakers. So even within your kind of ridiculous standard, because we've seen lots of, even the U.S. with Bora Voltinovic, I know I didn't pronounce that right, in 94, was not a great English speaker. I mean,
and he's still not a great English.
And I'm not a great whatever country that is, because you heard me botch his name, although Bora is certainly a legend. He coached China. You know what I mean? What an absurd standard. Like, there haven't been coaches that don't speak the language, and it doesn't work.
I wonder how many players are, making their way through the U.S. national team program that don't speak English. Yeah. Players, that only speak Spanish or that only speak,
It's just stupid. Very, very, very strange. And even with your English speakers, you have other guys you could at least interview. Vermees and Jesse Marsh and all these guys. I mean, I'm not sure if Marsh basically said he wasn't. No one spoke to him, if I'm not mistaken. We'll learn more as this process.
I don't even know if Marsh is as interested in it.
Yeah, and perhaps not. But we'll learn more about this, I think, after hiring goes down and more information comes out. But hasn't been very encouraging coming off the back of that disaster in Trinidad and Tobago that U.S. men's national team willing to make any sort of adjustments to what is obviously a broken system.
All right. Any final thoughts?
That was a good final thought.
That was a good final thought.
Come down off my high horse.
Next week, we may have a special guest on the radio show, so make sure you're tuning in 7 to 8 p.m. on Atlanta Sports X, 12:30 a.m., 106.3 FM. Follow us on Dirty South Soccer. Well, follow Dirty South Soccer. Follow Mouse of the South. Okay, let me start that over. Follow Dirty South Soccer at Dirty South Sock, Dirty South SOC. Follow Mouse of the South on Twitter, MOTS Podcast. Follow us both
J.A. Patrick 200.
J.A. Patrick 2000.
Well played.
For those that don't know, there is a Twitter doppelganger. Well, not doppelganger. I think it's look alike, but there's a Darren Eagles.
Yes.
To
I have my own Darren
Patrick.
Eagles.
Yeah, basically. Going around. You can find me at JoshB914.
You can find me at Eric G. Quintana. Make sure you follow Sam Franco at Sam J. Franco. And
enjoy the international break. See you next week.
We'll see you next week, hopefully with a special guest. We'll let you know as soon as we find out whether we booked him or not. But until then, see you next time, Atlanta.
I can't believe you got that.
Thank you.
We need to, the best thing is